Well, hi YouTubers, hi, I'm back with the 6 month 60 bugs, and if you are watching my previous video into this, you notice, yes, I did not change my top, okay? Doing 2 reviews in one day, and I can't bother to change. So, anyway, here we go. This book I totally adored. At the Edge of the Ocean by Tracy Chevalier, okay, I hope I pronounced that correctly, who is best-selling author of The Last Runaway, as says on the cover, and also The Girl with a Pearl Earring, which I've read, so I absolutely loved. I did reread for that one, doing a review like this. I read the blurb. In the inhospitable black swamps of Ohio, the Goodenough family are barely scratching out a living. Life there is harsh, tempered only by the apples they grow for eating, and sighs that dulls the pain. Hot-headed Sadie and button-up James are a poor match, and Robert and his sister Martha can only watch helplessly as the parents tear each other apart. One particularly vicious fight sends Robert out alone across America, far from his sister to seek his fortune, among the mighty redwoods and cypress of Gold Rush, California. But even across the continent, he can feel the pull of family loyalties. Right, so a book set in partly pioneer times of America. Now, obviously, I'm British. The accent gave their one away. So I don't know much about this time period in America, but one thing that Tracy does is she creates this world brilliantly. You really get a feel for these characters. Just the way it starts. This was just, I love this. This is just the first page. They were fighting over apples again. He wanted to grow more eaters to eat. He wanted spitters to drink. It was an argument rehearsed so often that by now they both played their parts perfectly. The words flowing smooth and monotonous around each other since he heard them enough time not to have to listen anymore. What made the fight between sweet and sour different this time was not that James Goodenough was tired. He was always tired. It was a man down, carving life from the black swamps. It wasn't that Sadie Goodenough was over. She was often hungover. The difference was that John Chapman had been with them the night before. Of all the Goodenoughs, only Sadie stayed up and listened to him talk late into the night, occasionally throwing pine cones into the fire to make it flare. Spark in his eyes and belly, and God knows what else had leapt over to that flame, finding its true path. From one cold wood shaving to another. She was always happy assassin, sure of herself, after John Chapman visited. Now, obviously, being British, I didn't know who John Chapman was until it tweaked Johnny Appleseed. I know the story of Johnny Appleseed from my childhood. Johnny Appleseed went around America planting apples, turned to trees. Okay, there's more to it than that, obviously, but that was the story I was told in school. Johnny Appleseed was a good man who went around America planting apple seeds so everyone could grow apples and make pies and cider. Hey, this is what primary education does to you, okay? This is a story about family. This is a story about 2 selfish individuals hell-bent on self-destruction and how it impacts on their family going down the generations. This is a story, okay, of the pioneer times, the hardships, the desperation. It's a story, okay, about tragedy. This is chapter 6, okay? This is when James Goodenough is talking about the plant of the apples, and this bit here. It was knowledge debated to James Goodenough that he couldn't imagine it would not be to others, and so was constantly astonished at his family's ignorance concerning the apples. It seemed to think that if he scattered some seeds and picked the results with no steps in between, except for Robert, the youngest Goodenough child was always the exception. Them are trees, Sadie repeated, her face set to sullen. You can't cut them down. Good apples from them trees, good cider. You cut one down, you'll be losing a barrel of cider. You're going to take cider away from your children. Sadie cares more about alcohol in her own family. She even says more than once, okay, what's the point of having children if you can't work, if you can't work at them? She is opinionated, egotistical, selfish, bitter, angry, whereas her husband is just repressed, okay? He represses his anger. When it gets to John Chapman, Johnny Appleseed himself, now this is page 24, okay? Because this is obviously my first introduction to Johnny Appleseed, and this is great. A really, really well researched novel, by the way. I loved it. John Chapman started to pay us visits 2 or 3 times a year, always in the spring, when he come up to see how we were, how we and the trees are fed over the winter, and sent us more if we needed any. Then in the fall, when he was checking over his nursery trees for up the river, sometimes in the summer he'd stop too, on his way from one place to another. I like to think he stopped to see us because of me, and ran out to the river whenever I heard him whistle, Bob White, Bob White. The Chatton was a singular man, that's for sure. I never once saw him wear clothes like other men, breeches or trousers and shirts and suspenders, nor shoes nor jacket, even though everyone else frosted at night. Don't know what he did for clothes in the winter, since we never saw him. Maybe he holed up like a bear. He was a shaggy man. Shaggy hair and beard, long fingernails, heels like cheese rinds. Bright eyes through that flesh and followed their conversation. Yeah. What I liked best about John Chapman was that he didn't judge me, like some I won't name. He never said, Sadie, you're drunk, Sadie, you're a disgrace, Sadie, you're dragging his family down in the swamp. He didn't take the bottle from me or hide it or empty it, so I had to drink vinegar instead. John Chapman understood the power of the apples and how things had come from them. It was he who showed me how apples could be the cure for another of the enemies. That was the swamp fever. Now, one thing I love from a writing structure is the writing in this, from the dialogue of the characters, is not precise. Okay, the writing style is actually using the actual dialect, which means some words you stumble over because it's as like a natural read, but really kind of centers you in the lives of these people. You understand them, you see where they're coming from, you see their education, how limited it is, has kind of impacted them down the generations. Yeah. So this is just astonishing tour de force of a novel. It's just further along. After supper, John Chapman told me the news fresh from heaven. Everyone else disappeared to their beds or out of the barn, which was rude of them, but it was all right with me, as I'd had him to myself for night. Him and James had spent most of the supper talking apples, which just about killed me. I think after all those years I had nothing left to say about the apple trees. Thank God the Jack took the edge off. It was good and fiery. I've carefully drinking it. It'd be a couple of months before it'd be cold enough to make more. It's like an alcoholic drink. I let John Chapman go on with his God talk real late, and the fire was low and the candle burned out, and everybody was asleep. He kept talking about the need to take a more inventory of our lives lived so far. I don't know what that meant. I liked hearing him talk, but it never moved me the way the preachers did at the camp meeting. I tried not to think of the last camp meeting, but of course once it was my head I did. Now, John Chapman seems to drop in and out of these characters' lives, okay? And from our point of view, you can almost see him as kind of this mythical figure coming in trying to do good. The reality of John Chapman as a bit of the back, obviously was not the reality, but having him kind of woven in the tales like this mythical figure. Is he a sinner? Is he a saviour? Hey, that's for the audience to pretty much decide, but it kind of gives this book kind of like a mythical quality to it. This is like a mythical book set in the pioneer times. Especially when they leave the Ohio swamps and Robert, the youngest, good enough, so the eldest good enough, starts to see his own destiny. You get to see more of this world and its expansion. Now, I don't want to ruin any of this book because some bits of it just twist and surprise me. But I show you about Robert and Martha, these siblings who are separated. And yet Martha, free from her family, becomes educated. She actually becomes a very, very promising young woman. Robert, separated from his family, starts to forge a career. Use what his father taught him in the swamp to kind of push his life forward. It shows how these two characters, Sadie and James Goodenough, who are so hell-bent on self-destruction, yet their children make better lives for themselves. But also in a very, very realistic way. There is no real kind of happy ending, but it's a satisfying ending. The style and structure of this writing is so well done, so researched. And just the way she describes the world This bit here, this bit is about when from the upper streets, Redbook Grove. I just love the style. He was right about the Redbook Grove, okay? It was full of tall trees with a distinctive open bark and needle branches, getting bigger the higher up they grew. Robert knew he didn't have much to offer to collect, much time to collect 50 seedlings. He only had walked a long way into the grove. It took a few minutes to sit on a log and look around him. Last fire had charred parts of the May trunks, but Redwood's bark was thick and full of tannin that protected it from the burning and redwood branches grew starting halfway up the trunk, which meant the flames couldn't use them as a ladder to reach the top of the tree. The fire forest had been cleaned by the fire, and now tiny seedlings were sprouting everywhere amidst the carpet of emerald green redwood sorrows. Just a little bit, okay, because when you think about what America looked like prior to everything that happened, the setting and the natural environment, which is now diminished. I mean, there are now national parks in America where they can kind of see these trees, but they're not every day. And the way Robert kind of sees these, leaving Ohio, going to this new place, it's got a sense of wonderment as well. You know, he's struggling, he's a man during pioneer times, he's trying to make a future for himself, but there's a sense of wonderment attached to him when he sees nature, which I think has been lost. So, The Edge of the Orchard by Tracy, Chevalier. The one who wrote the girl without earring, okay? This book is good. Okay, I really enjoyed it. It's the first book I've read of her since The Girl with Pearl Earring, and I really love that too. I do recommend this book. You will really enjoy it. Okay, sign off here. And bye now.